Alrighty, good morning. Hey, I'm Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. Today is Wednesday, June 2nd, and we have a great show. We're busy today, so we're just going to get right into it. Show number 183, broadcasting still with spirituality going wild and soon to be other networks. But we're also broadcasting on the American Gumption YouTube channel and Facebook page. So things are evolving, constant in motion. So everything is good. Everything is working out the way it's supposed to be. So again, welcome to today's show. So today I'm going to have Pam Gerrand come back and join us. And she was here back on show number 160 on April 21st, so about 6 weeks ago. So we're welcoming her back after we did that show. And we talked about her music and about her whole, career, how she got started with it. We ended up having a little off-air conversation, and that led right into what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about Synchro-Destinies. And that is from our friend Deepak Chopra, a book he wrote back in 2005. And so we'll get into that in just a few minutes. Now, before that happens, I'm going to do a quick little monologue, probably about 10 minutes, and it's going to be on beliefs. So I'll tell you all about that as I get into it, but basically beliefs is what it is. What are my beliefs? 2014, I laid them out. All righty. So great. All right. Now, let's see. Tomorrow, Thursday, Shani Alvarez. Shani comes back. She was here 3 weeks ago, I guess, 2 weeks ago. And we talked about her book, We Are One, and specifically her book cover. And I asked her about it at the very end of the show. And it kind of had like a man and a woman, and kind of representing Adam and Eve, and their hair wasn't like regular hair. It was like trees. And I asked her about that. So she's going to tell us that the yin and yang of men and women, and her philosophies on how the opposites attract, and they're really one, and they blend together. So we're going to get into that whole conversation tomorrow. That's going to be fun. And then on Friday, Gwen Peterson, the founder of Spiritual Communities Network, she's going to return. She was here about a month ago, and she talked about the Spiritual Communities Network, but we're going to talk about her particular brand, and how she works specifically with people, and how, she's been doing this work for about 20 years. And really it was about 10 years ago when she felt like she was called to expand, and that's how Spiritual Communities Network started. So things are, but we're going to go back to her roots, and we're going to talk about what she does and how she works with her clients. All righty. So let's go ahead and jump into my monologue. And again, it's beliefs, and what the story is on this. Let's see. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We'll put that back up there, and let me put myself in the. Whoops, there we go. In the larger spot. I'll move over here. All righty. So beliefs. It was an exercise I did back in 2014, and it was over a 6-month period. And the way it originally came about was I learned it from a group exercise for a board I was serving on. And the idea was that the board, or me as an individual, in the case that I did, basically you want to come up with your purpose, your vision, and your mission. But the exercise that we didn't start with writing a purpose statement or a vision or a mission statement. It really started with creating what your values and beliefs and rules are. And you specifically went into, that order. So you first want to start with your values, then your beliefs, and then your rules. And I had, several shows ago, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I did the whole explanation of this exercise in greater detail. But today, specifically, what we're going to talk about is the beliefs portion of it, because that was probably in some ways the thing that really I got getting real crystal clear on. That was the thing that was really important. So anyway, after I went through this exercise with the group for this board that I was serving on, I said, hey, I want to do that for myself, for my own brand. And it didn't take me, it took me about a couple of weeks, and I would just wake up in the morning and I would go through it, and I would work on it every day for maybe an hour at the very most. And then but I'd go back and I'd review it on a daily basis, and I keep tweaking it. And then after about a few weeks, I let it sit for a few weeks, and then I'd go back and look at it. And, over the course of 6 months is how it really developed, where I kept fine tuning it. Alrighty. Now, this is what I ended up with in terms of my particular business back in there. You can't see that. It's too small. But the point is that, I went and I created this mind map. And it basically has on the right side, your beliefs, rules, and values. And then on the left side was more the purpose, vision, mission, goals, and tasks or strategies on how to achieve that. All righty. So beliefs really are, exactly what they say. What do you believe? And this was actually a little more of thought, because it's like, well, what are you going to say? What are you going to really believe? So I ended up coming up with, I think, 7 of them. And I'm going to list the 7 that I created back then. And I have a little bit of commentary on them. So we'll just go through those pretty quickly here. Alrighty. So experiences enhance learning and connectedness. This is my belief number 1. Experiences enhance learning and connectedness. Now, I was Pine and Gilmore, The Experience Economy. They greatly influenced me around 2012. And so the whole idea of experiences took place, and I realized that it's our experiences that allow us to grow, not necessarily like a reading from a book. And so anyway, and we connect with people. So anyway, this was part of my values. So I said values, beliefs, rules. So you start with values, then you go to beliefs, and then you go to rules. So first I listed all my values. Well, one of my main values was experiences, lifelong learning. We're all connected. All right. So here we go. We're all connected. Belief number 2. And belief number 2 is probably the one that was most impactful for me the last 7 years, because this was created again in 2014. So almost 7 years ago, exactly 7 years ago, when I really started the process. And we are all connected. And that's the quantum. That's the realization. And I had been doing enough personal development work that I understood this, but to actually verbalize it and put it down, this was a stretch for me at the time. So I said, hey, we're all connected. Now, I ended up adding to it, there are no coincidences. We're all connected. There are no coincidences. So I didn't originally have the are no coincidences. But over the years, as I've talked about my beliefs, this was always the thing that I talked about the most. We're all connected, and there are no coincidences. Everything is connected. All righty. Belief number 3. All individuals have great potential. And this is, this is really at the heart of the American Gumption brand today, with the belief that everybody that I interview is an ordinary person living an extraordinary life. I believe that everyone has potential. I remember sitting on the bench as Forrest Gump, and people would make little comments like, isn't it like, and this didn't happen all the time, but it did happen. So they say, isn't it kind of annoying having to talk to people? And I was like always kind of dumbfounded when people would ask me that question, because no, actually, if it was annoying, I would have been a terrible Forrest Gump impersonator, and I wouldn't have been able to do what I did, because I loved people. I loved talking to people. And I just, I've always had that deep inner feeling that, people are good at their core, and, people get together in groups, and then, then they don't always behave as well as they should, but at their individual level, everyone is good, and everyone has great potential. All right. Belief number 4, transformation is always available. Transformation is always available. This is really the quantum. This is the infinite possibilities that are always out there. And the idea that we can change very, very quickly when we decide to, when we put our mind to, and when we change our beliefs. And so if we have certain beliefs that are holding us in a certain position, then if we change our beliefs, then we actually can change what's available to us. So I truly believe this at the core also. All righty. Number 5, life is a journey and continuous learning opportunity. Again, this is the lifelong learning piece part in, and it's life is a journey. This is life lesson number 3 from the movie Forrest Gump. That's really what the movie is all about. Forrest just goes through his life chapter. He's always growing. He's always experiencing something new. And within his life journey, he has different life chapters. And so that is foundational in terms of what one of my beliefs really is. All righty. So number 6 is responsibility is the foundation of personal freedom. So responsibility, obviously one of my values. The 3 life lessons the 3 principles of Gumption are personal responsibility for the way you think. Whoops, where's my finger at? How do I get it to show up on it? There it is. The way you think, the way you act, and the way you interact with others. So your thoughts, actions, interactions with others, that's personal responsibility. And that is really at the heart of Gumption. And of course, when you do take responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and interactions, then you can be personally free. All righty. And the last one, taking action always leads to results. Taking action always leads to results. Now, this is the only belief that I think I'm going to modify a bit, and I haven't figured out the exact wording, but I like the taking action part a lot. But the part where I think always is the word that's getting me, and results also, because we have in mind a direction that we want to go. And the problem I'm having with this is that we have this result in mind, and the taking action won't always lead directly to that kind of a result. So that's really the rethinking of it. So what I'm thinking about as I look at this, and again, this is from 7 years ago, but taking action always like breaks the log jam, or taking action will always get you unstuck. Taking action will always like move the ball forward, allow you to kind of get out of that spot that you're at. So I'm a great believer in taking action, but I'm going to have to modify this one a little bit just because, I think that it almost like tries to connect 2 things that are not necessarily directly connected. And so I like the taking action part a lot, but I don't necessarily believe it'll get to the result that you want each and every time. So anyway, we'll figure that out. So now, just to kind of summarize, this original list that I made up 7 years ago has held up remarkably well. I read it today, and there was a time when I read it like quite a bit, but it had been a while since I went back and visited it. And so I really started thinking it through again, and it's held up, like I said. And I now can look at it and go, it was a forward-looking set of beliefs. And by that, I mean that it gave me a chance to grow into these beliefs. Now, does that mean that I didn't believe them back when I wrote them? I don't think that's the case. I think I believed them, but I didn't know them, and I didn't have them as internalized in my heart as I do today, 7 years later. And so, I can look back at it now and see that it was a bit of a forward looking. It was a stretch. It was like pushing or pulling me. It was kind of pulling me into that, that future that I want to live. And I think that, it's held up, like I said, very, very, very well. And only one of those beliefs needs some modification. So the other ones are pretty rock solid. And I guess the last thought, and this is something that just occurred to me this morning as I was as I was really preparing, finalizing this presentation, it's an opportunity for me to create a new set of forward-looking beliefs. In other words, what would be the things that I've evolved since that set? It doesn't mean this set of beliefs goes away, but what would be a new set of beliefs that I could create that would allow me to, again, like maybe like 5 years, not like a 6-month type of, beliefs changing, but like, how do you want to grow in the next, the next months and years to come? So that is really it. That's those are the beliefs, the summary of it, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I think it, I think it kind of worked out well for me in terms of, doing that exercise. And again, there was the values, the beliefs, the values, the beliefs, and then the rules. And then once you have those things established, and you want to do it in that order. You want to create first your values, and then from your values, you create your beliefs, and then from your values and beliefs, you create your rules. And then once that's pretty solid, then you go on and you start to create your purpose, vision, mission, those statements. And you don't want to create your goals and your strategies until all of those things are in place. So that's it. All righty. Well, let me go ahead and finish that up and bring Pam onto the show. She was here 6 weeks ago or so, but we will welcome Pam back to the show right this moment. Are you there? Hello, Pam. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Well, thank you for joining us. We had a chance to speak just a moment before we went onto the air, and we were scheduled a couple of weeks ago, but the internet didn't work, and then we both found out that the timing worked out better today than it maybe would have worked 2 weeks ago. So it was things are always working out for us.
Things are always working out. Absolutely in our favor, and just trusting that was at the heart of your monologue this morning. I loved the magic that you brought forth.
Thank you. Yeah. And I was inspired as we started to talk about doing this topic of synchro-destinies and tying in Deepak Chopra and his book and the term synchro-destinies that he recorded or he coined. It was really like my beliefs of their of connectedness and the fact that there are no coincidences, that really solidified in 2014. It started earlier than that, but I didn't know whether I really believed it for those first couple of years. And then I finally said, no, this is what I believe. And then, of course, life has evolved since then. And then the idea of coincidence is really what synchronicities, synchro-destinies is all about. So I thought it was a good topic.
Yes. And it's interesting because when you started to, can you tell me what belief number one was again? Because I was writing on the rest of them.
Yes, I can tell you. Belief number one is experiences enhance learning and connectedness. Experiences enhance learning and connectedness.
Absolutely. And I was reminded that when I was in grade 11, I had a really amazing social studies teacher who I remember he drew a triangle on the blackboard. And on this triangle was at the lower left perception, at the top values, and at the lower right behavior, which is what you're talking about. Yours was rules. So being, a 17-year-old young woman, hearing my social studies teacher who had an interest in psychology and the workings of the human mind and the subconscious and conscious behaviors, I hadn't really thought about this lens of how we're raised, how some of our family patterning and circuitry and teachings, and then the environment of our culture starts to shape what we believe. And then that will then shape our behavior, what you're calling your rules. So I love how you put that set of rules together and reflected on it all these years later. And only one of them needed a bit of a tweak. And I actually, when you were talking about that tweak, for taking action always leads to results that you were kind of ruminating on. Is this true? How do I believe in this now? How is it different in my world? And I loved how you just kind of leaned into the nuance of knowing that action definitely is what sets things in motion, right? But then that always, and then results. You were just kind of thinking about how that word landed on you. And it made me think of, and wanting to tweak it, it made me think of the Goethe quote, because I really think that where you are in your world now, the word results may have been too defined, too narrow. And the more that you've been opening up on your path to the journey and to the magic of Synchro-Destiny, it's less kind of like, I have these two variables and you know, this is going to be the definite result of it. It's kind of like surrendering to source, surrendering to the universe and saying, what will be the magic that arises? So I'm sure you've heard this Goethe quote, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness concerning all acts of initiative and creation. There is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. And I feel like everything that is at the heart of the gentle magic of Forrest Gump had to do with this. I think about the movie, and I'm sure that you experienced this, the crazy coincidences, the people that showed up, the famous people in the movie that couldn't, it was so unlikely that Forrest would be sitting beside or meeting up with. And there's something about the innocence of Forrest Gump's boldness, because to me, it was less of an egoic, I'm going out there, I'm going to make this happen. There was something mercurial and so much about the child, the innocence of Forrest just going out into the world. And there was this engine of believing in the goodness of the world and of people that I feel like you embody so beautifully in what you shared in your monologue, what you set out as your system of beliefs, is that I believe we're all connected. And I believe that this life is an amazing journey. And the boldness, Forrest just deciding, well, I'm going out with my suitcase and I'm going to walk, I'm going to run, I'm going to meet all these people. Incredible boldness that most people would just, never step out on that path. So I think that boldness has genius, power, and magic in it, really informs everything that you expressed this morning.
Well, thank you, Pam. And you, I think if we bring the law of attraction into it, it's the allowing part. We can set our intention, and we do have to take action. So the intention is the result that we want, and then we take the action, but that in between is the allowing part that is so important, and letting the universe, the quantum, be the breadcrumbs that we just experience along the way. And so I think that the reason why that quote is not or that one that I want to tweak a little bit is because I now understand there is no, action doesn't produce the result. Action gets you moving, but the result comes about in kind of that mysterious, in what we call coincidence. But it really is that universe, that our inner spirit, our angel guides who are all directing us. And I didn't have that when I wrote that back 7 years ago. I didn't have that awareness. And really, it's only been the last couple of years that awareness has come in. So anyway, so good. Thank you so much for listening and for sharing and making that interesting. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Well, and it's as you say, it's really opening to this greater energy in the universe that's always guiding us, and having the courage to listen. Mm-hmm. And Einstein described synchronicity. He called it spooky action at a distance. The mind will try to make sense of what is happening, And it's, I really believe that it's fascinating that we as humans we're meaning makers. We need to know why, how is this happening? And I think that when we start to really open and step onto that bridge of knowing that we are living in a benevolent universe, although it seems intense and dark, and right now, especially in the world, there are a lot of forces at play that we might feel at the effect of negative, distorted, interfering energies. There are greater than that is this energy that is always conspiring for our greater good. And I believe that whatever happens in our life, we may use words that fall into the duality, the register of good or bad or anything in between. But I believe that whatever is arising in our experience is here to show us who we are. And sometimes what arises is a deep experience of who we are not. And our feet are held to the fire. And so I think that when Deepak Chopra coined that term Synchro-Destiny, he was talking about seemingly unrelated events coming together to kind of shock us out of our sleepwalking state. And that there in our unconsciousness, there is a driving force that is always guiding us to open wider and wider. I think of the iris of a camera that's always, when you think about it, opening and opening and opening the lens wider and wider. The more we open to this magic, the more we realize that there is science behind this. And actually, interestingly, I was looking up yesterday, knowing we were coming together to talk about this, that the science behind this, when we talk about particle and wave, synchro-destiny occurs when wave and wave meet, or both the sender and receiver are in a parasympathetic state of mind. In such a situation, the receiver will catch the signals. The two are likely to get connected and have a dialogue. It is this connection which we call coincidence. So I thought about this and the fact that when we are in a sympathetic nervous system state, which is fight, flight, or freeze, we are really in that survival mode in the reptilian brain, and our brain actually shuts down. All of the blood, gets shunted from the limbs to our heart and our digestive system, so that because we basically need what we need to survive. And when we're in that state, which one might call fear, survival, running from the predator, we're not in an expanded, higher state of mind. We're just taking care of business, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, so much of the world right now, we are in a heightened, kind of constant state of sympathetic. And when in that, what I just read to you, when it talks about when both the sender and receiver are in the parasympathetic state of mind, we meet each other in these invisible realms, and there's a higher communication going on. So this is why the yogic masters, the teachers of the Vedas in India, encouraged meditation, solitude, walks in nature, deep breathing, chanting, anything that stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve in the body, from the brain down past the carotid artery into past the heart and the lungs into the digestive system. It comes from the Latin word vagere, to wander. It's the largest nerve in our body. And when we do anything that activates the vagus nerve, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest, repair, digest. And it's literally connected to these higher states of consciousness that we might say are these magical states, these liminal states connected to our source energy, our guides, our angels, our higher self. So I know for myself a practice of deep breathing, of chanting, of meditation. We then become connected to these non-ordinary states of consciousness. And it's more likely that we are then to have these magical occurrences, which are very real.
You had your own very real 3D experiences with Deepak Chopra, and I think it might be fun if you just sort of tell that very real 3D story of how you ended up meeting, and not just once, but a couple of different times. And that was really the conversation that we had that led to this conversation today. So please, for the audience, share what happened to you, and you talk about your synchro-destinies, your very real experiences where the waves, I like what you said, the wave, like one wave meets another wave, and then that focus happens and it becomes the real, the particle, and that's where the magic happens.
Right, exactly. And when you wrote down your beliefs, I was writing them all down, and I just went, oh my God, like every single one of them relates to this story. Yeah. Every single one of them. So many years ago, I'm thinking, okay, it was 2007. Deepak Chopra was coming to speak at a forum, a conference being held in London, Ontario, which is about an hour from where I live. I live in Stratford, Ontario. And so it was this 2-day event that he was coming to deliver the keynote talk at. And I had a friend that she posted the ad. She was doing a workshop at this event. And as things turned out, as the weeks went by, I got in touch with her and I said, oh, well, do you know who's organizing this? Because I'd always wanted to meet Deepak Chopra. And I had this wild and crazy idea. I thought, why not get in touch with the promoter, the organizer, and see if I can offer a song before his talk, offer some music. So it turns out the friend gave me the contact information. Turns out the workshops that were supposed to be part of this event were canceled, but the keynote talk with Deepak Chopra stayed, as it ended up being the only part of this event that people bought tickets for. So I boldly wrote to this woman, this organizer, set my intention and followed through, acted on it. And she actually wrote to me. I said, I'll send you a CD. She listened to it. She said, I hadn't thought of this, but I think that would be a great idea. So why don't you come? And she said, and it's very interesting because I think about that being a watershed moment for me. She said, you can do 20 minutes while the audience is coming in, singing. I would bring my instruments and play music. And there was a part of me that went, okay, great. This is a wonderful offer. But I could feel something rising in me where I needed to negotiate a higher experience for myself and for the audience. It was a win-win, I felt, and I needed to speak this truth, and it took courage. I said, okay, great, but I would like 5 minutes where the audience is seated. I want them a listening audience, not just when they're wandering in and sitting down. I said, I want 2 things. I want to be introduced. I want you to speak my name, as in, this was, I could hear my higher self asking for this. I want to be introduced, and I want to have 5 minutes to sing my song, Love Is All, because it is a transmission of divine feminine consciousness, love, anchoring in the energy of Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, and Shakti and Shekinah, the holy wind, through this song that I sing a cappella. So she was like, okay, you've got it. So I get to the venue, and we're backstage, and Deepak's people find out, that I am set up. They see my keyboard and my instruments on stage, and they say, what's happening? And she tells them, and they say, oh, no. Well, the instrumental music is fine, but she can't sing a song with words. So long story short, there's some, traditionally there can be instrumental music, but you can't sing a song that has lyrics. Deepak is over there in the corner on his BlackBerry. They call him over and he goes, oh, you know what? I mean, he doesn't know how far I've traveled. He says, she's come all this way. I'd gone to Little India in Toronto and bought this Indian Langa dress that was all beaded and bejeweled. And he could see that I had, really, I had really known what this event meant. And, it was kind of a big deal for me. I was all dressed up. And so he says, just let her do this, just this once.
Let me just stop you just for a second and talk about it. So you boldly asked the organizer to do this. And then the organizer says yes, and gives you one piece of what, it presents, okay, 20 minutes, but you, listening to your higher self, realize that no, that's great, but we really need to do this. So you kind of push and you go and get like a specific where you're going to do like that introduction song for 5 minutes, and the organizer again agrees. Then you get there all set to do that, and Deepak's people are like, no, we're not doing any of that. And then somehow or another, Deepak says, oh well, let's just change the rules. Let's just do it. If left, so all these little synchronicities are occurring like to get you to there, and then all of a sudden, like in one moment, it's like not going to happen at all, and then boom, it does happen exactly as you want. So keep going.
Exactly. And when he said she's come all this way, I mean, I'd only driven an hour, but there was something in my field about what this meant and how I had committed to it, because he didn't know. My mom and my sister had traveled from 3 provinces away. It involved plane fare. This was such a big deal to me and such a joy. And so, yes, there was something about him saying, just let her do this. And I also knew this was 14 years ago. And my request to be introduced and to have the audience be listening was that in my experience of many, many times singing background music in different places, and that's one thing, but I had really come to know that we are beings of sound and light. We are vibrational beings. And to come into the full presence, to receive what I was offering, through my heart, through my voice. This was the divine feminine speaking through me. It is time to stand up and ask in the full presence, because this is what, if you're going to give a gift, you can't just go, oh, here it is. They're walking in and I'll just hand this to you while you're sitting down. No. We have all got to be fully present together to unwrap this gift. Right. And fully receive it. So it was pretty magical the way that unfolded, and also how I knew that to anchor the energy, we all had to be in the oneness of this moment, receiving and giving together. So I sing. It's an amazing evening. It's beautiful. And at the end, Deepak's kind of off in the corner. We take a few pictures, which was lovely. And then he starts to go, and he has his people all around him, right? And over his shoulder, he says, that was really beautiful. Send me a message. Get in touch with me. I'd like to talk more. And I'm like, he's walking away, and they said, his handlers are saying, no, we got to get to the airport. There's no card exchange. There's no email. So I'm like, okay, how do I write to Deepak Chopra, right? So I looked him up. I looked up on his website. I did write to him a few times, of course, didn't hear back. This is a 3-part story, and it was this trifecta of me needing to up my game and just really feeling like there is some evolutionary purpose to my feeling this connection to Deepak Chopra, because, I really understand that, for all that he brings to the world, so do I have something to bring to the world that when we come together, it's amplified. So there was something about this. And next thing I know, that was 2007. Year and a half later, he is, I see advertised doing an event in Costa Rica called the Symphony of Transformation. And I am, of course, being a musician, drawn by that title. I look at the dates. I end up talking to someone that I had been leading Earth Charter presentations with. And lo and behold, this woman who's a dentist in a community not far from where I live, we'd been working together for about a year. She has a timeshare in San Jose, Costa Rica. She says, well, let's go. Let's go to this event. So we line up. She actually puts in motion that we're going to do a pre-event presentation of the Earth Charter. So it's all in place. Well, a month before this Symphony of Transformation, her mother falls ill in England, and she gets in touch with me and she says, you know what? I can't come. I have to stay here, and I have to just, be here waiting to hear, and I may have to travel to the UK to my mom. But I'd like you to still go. She said, you can stay at my timeshare. Can you deliver this Earth Charter presentation? And so I had been doing readings and singing, and she delivered the presentation. Well, she came over, she taught it to me. And lo and behold, my daughter, who was in grade 12, we looked at the dates, and this Symphony of Transformation landed in my daughter's March break, the exact week that she would be off from grade 12. So she comes with me. She runs the PowerPoint show and does it with me, and I deliver this presentation at the Symphony of Transformation. And I get to hear from all these amazing, beautiful thought leaders, so energizing and inspiring. Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, again, a lot of different beautiful teachers and authors and leaders. And that particular week-long event, I didn't feel called to go up to Deepak, introduce myself. I just drank in the experience, and it was really beautiful. So that was in, I want to say March. Oh, it was March. It was March of that year because it was for my daughter's March break. And then that June, only a few months later, I get an invitation to Celebrate Your Life, which is a big event that's being held in Chicago. Well, I literally get the invitation, and I'm looking at it, and 5 of the same authors and speakers that had been at the Symphony of Transformation in Costa Rica were all going to be in Chicago. I had given each one of them one of my CDs, my most recent music CDs. So I get this idea, and I think, I'm getting in the car. I'm going to drive to Chicago. It's like 3 weeks from now. And I'm going to say hello to all. I've planted seeds, and I get this really strong feeling that I've got to go to Chicago. And, my husband is standing over my shoulder as I'm looking at the website, and he is so my partner in crime. I say this in the best way because he really gets that when I need to do something and follow through, I need to do this, and don't question it, right? So he's looking over my shoulder, and he sees like the lunch menu things. He goes, so what are you going to pick for your lunch? He's just like, this is happening. You're going, right? So I book my ticket. I get in the car. I drive to Chicago. And, I had just the 3 years leading up to that, I'd been going to England and doing workshops and concerts at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in London, England. And every time I went there, I felt like I expanded more. Every time I left my Canadian soil, we Canadians can tend to be, a little, let's just say we have a little less American gumption than you do. When I think of the American dream and Americans being bold, Canadians are known for being quite reserved and apologetic, and we don't kind of toot our own horn much, right? And that's a beautiful thing. But when I went to England and had these experiences, I felt some of that tenuousness, that, it kind of felt like something that was holding me back. I felt it enlarge and enlarge. And when I got to Chicago, I was feeling like, okay, this is where I'm going to be meeting people that I'm going to co-create with as part of my new, larger global identity that is not about one country or one way of being. It's about this universal energy that's arising, about stepping in to our bold voices, our truth, about being here as agents for change at this amazing time of awakening on planet Earth. So I'm pretty fired up. I check into my hotel. I decide to go find some food, somebody says at the front desk, there's this mall down this, it's got a food court. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll go see what they've got at this mall. I think there was something I needed to pick up at the mall anyways. I go into the food court and I have literally Chinese food. I think it was called Panda Express. We don't have this in Canada. And I eat my lunch and I, at the end, have a fortune cookie and I open it up and I literally just go, oh my God, the fortune cookie says, you have the urge and ability for great accomplishments.
Mm.
Now this is a fortune cookie, right? You think it's a small thing. It might as well have been, skywriting or
a billboard.
Written in neon lights. And I literally, Steve, said to myself, yes, I do have the urge and ability for great accomplishments. And I said out loud, and this weekend, this is where I'm going to meet the people who are going to activate and energize in me this feeling, this way of being. So I take this little fortune cookie and I start to tuck it into my red wallet. And I look to the doorway of the food court. I'm about to get up and leave. And I literally did like a wonka wonka double take, like who's standing in the doorway of the food court in his shiny red sparkly glasses and red runners, Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
By himself. Every time I've ever seen him, he's always surrounded by people, he does go places by himself. So he's standing there with his hands in his pockets. And I'm like, oh my God. And I can literally feel divine providence, like this electricity. And I hear this quiet, but very determined voice say, there you go. You walk over there and say hello. And my little Canadian me went, no, again. And I shrank. I could literally feel this little debate going on in me. And I just quietly, this is the wave meeting the wave. What I read at the beginning and how there is this field that draws us together mysteriously, magically. So I do wander over and there he's standing at the door of the food court and he looks at me and I actually don't even have to say anything. He goes, oh, hello. I know you. You sang at an event that I did in Canada, didn't you? Now, he says, and your name? And so I introduce myself. I say, I'm Pam Gerrand. And he says, it was London, Ontario. So he had this memory and I'm just literally standing there going, is this really happening? So he says, are you in town for Celebrate Your Life? And I said, yes. He says, are you singing at the event? I said, I'm not. I'm here to meet people. And I said, and you're the very first one. And he kind of smiles. And he says, well, very, very well. He said, well, good work then. And we have a little bit more of a chat and he walks away. And I literally just stood there like, it was, oh, there's my dog. Normally, Rufus. There are kids up in my neighborhood playing, and he often will respond.
Let me jump in just for a second while Rufa, is it Rufa?
Rufus.
Rufus is while Rufus calms down. A couple things that are very that I wanted to just comment on. When you were in Costa Rica, you knew you shared your CDs, and yet you didn't have that aggressiveness or that gumption that would have like imposed yourself on him, because you were in touch with yourself and you knew that it wasn't the right timing. And then contrast that to when Deepak appears in the food court and you knew that, look, this is like a time to get up and go out and speak. And then you were quiet and he did all the the connecting. So it wasn't like you were connecting dots. He was connecting the dots. But you had gotten up and went over there, and there would have been no dots to connect had you not done that.
Right.
And I was just reflecting a little bit on my Gump years. I was very aggressive, and I was paid to be very aggressive in terms of what I did, and it worked out wonderfully. And yet there were certain times that I knew in Steve's heart that it wasn't the right, like I had to pull back on that just because it would have not been the right thing to do. And even though my handlers might have been encouraging me at times to go forward, I always honored when it was the right thing to do and when it wasn't the right thing to do. And again, I was like, so I want to congratulate and I want to point out that there's an awareness that we have about like the appropriateness of taking that action and taking that action aggressively, or waiting for when it's not quite the right time. We have that inner knowing if we're tuned into it, if our dial is sensitive enough to listen to that. So anyway, that's all I wanted to comment on.
Beautifully expressed. And what you're speaking to is the timing of this discernment that I really believe is our divine discernment. I love that. I can't remember who said this, but it was, nature does not hurry, and yet everything is accomplished in perfect timing, in perfection. And, I didn't ever feel called at that event in Costa Rica to approach Deepak. I actually danced with Marianne Williamson at this beautiful party. They closed down the zoo, and we had this amazing party in the warm, soft air. There were other people I connected with. I had an amazing workshop with Alberto Villoldo of the Four Winds Society, the shaman. There were other people I connected with at that time that I was drawn to. Now, looking back on it and reflecting on it, maybe if I had, there would have been an exchange at that time. All I know is that it was meant to be this trifecta, 3 parts. And I think about, anything the triangle that I think about my social studies teacher, perception, values, behavior. There's something very magical about 3.
Yeah.
And the third time was, how kooky is this? There was London, Ontario, there was San Jose, Costa Rica, and then I'm called to drive to Chicago in June. It was hot. My air conditioning broke on the way down. I'll tell you, it was a sweaty journey. But sometimes we are meant to follow through on these crazy ideas. There's some inner calling that's asking us to step out of our box of what feels safe or comfortable or known. There's something greater outside that. So there I went on this journey to Chicago, and there, like literally, that was probably, I've had a few in my life, but that was one of the most extraordinary moments of synchronicity, synchro-destiny I've ever had. And the fascinating thing was, it didn't end there. Right. That night during his talk, Deepak spoke about, this is the part that was really key to me. He talked about meeting a woman on a street corner, and he detailed this experience of how unlikely it was that they would meet up. And the thing that really came home to me was that first time that when I opened for Deepak, I had put him on a pretty big pedestal, right? He's famous. He's done all these, written all these beautiful books. And there was a part of me that had diminished. I don't want to say my worth, but me. I had put him on a pedestal, and I saw myself as this person who would bask in his light, his reflected light, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say this in all honesty, and if Deepak ever came back to see this, so be it. It's all good. There was a woman in the audience. I mean, I say this because we never know our impact, and we are all one. And what I've really come to know is that my divine assignment with Deepak was his divine assignment with me. And there was a woman who was in London that evening when I sang, and she said, yeah, I've heard Deepak speak a number of times, and he's excellent. I have to say, his talk that night was very similar to one I'd heard 5 years before. I didn't feel anything new. This was her opinion. She said, what I got from that evening and what transformed my heart, opened my heart, was you delivering that song at the beginning. It was unexpected. I didn't know who you were. This was going to be part of the evening. And it's not about better than, worse than, good, bad, high, low. It's about the fact that there is a democracy in our divinity, that sometimes, you say this show is about ordinary people having extraordinary lives. What is it that you say? Is that
ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives?
Okay, so this is exactly the essence of this. I had seen myself as someone perhaps less extraordinary as Deepak Chopra. And this woman was there in the audience, and I happened to meet her a year later, and she looked at me literally with stars in her eyes and said, thank you. Thank you for what you gave us that night. There were 1,200 people in the audience, and she said, there was a stillness and a quiet. So I know that what I came to experience through these 3 experiences with Deepak was my own awareness of this democracy of the divinity of souls that we are all equally valued, valuable, important, and that each one of us has something that we are here to give, some gift, something to express. So when I was at his talk and he started talking about Synchro-Destiny, and he said, when you meet up with someone in a profound way that is so unlikely, and yet there is something heightened about the experience that is inexplicable, and so it's just so miraculous. He said, this is the essence of Synchro-Destiny. And he said, one must really pay attention to this, because we are meant to be changed by such experiences, both people who are experiencing it. So I ended up buying a CD of his Rumi poems that night. And you know how when you're in a big lineup at an event like this, they put a sticky note on it with your name, and they just kind of run you through the line. Well, after he had delivered this talk about the deep meaning and importance that we really are asked to take from such a meeting, as they were shuffling me through the line, again, bold, there's 2 people on either side of Deepak at the desk, and he's signing, books and CDs as they're going through. And I stop, I put down my CD, and I don't just let him sign. And he wasn't really looking up. I tapped him on the shoulder, and he goes, "Oh, hello, it's you." Well, then, he said, I said, I had to meet your gaze. And I put my hand on my heart, and I said, and thank you for the extraordinary Synchro-Destiny we had today. And he said, yes, we did.
Wow.
Thank you. And the people around him were like, hurry up, get through the line. And
but it wasn't Synchro-Destiny for them.
Right. And and he looked up, and Deepak has such a beautiful heart, because he, right from the time where he could have said, no, she can't sing. There was a yes, yes, yes that kept opening us to this trajectory, this arc of meetings. So I just have shivers when I think about it even now. And somebody, I didn't even think of it, but somebody said, you should write and ask him for a testimonial. You have his email address, and God bless him. He said a few months later, after these 3 meetings, he gave me a beautiful testimonial. And this is where I know, from your belief too, we are all connected. There are no coincidences, and all individuals have great potential. My fortune cookie said that you have the urge and ability for great accomplishments. Transformation is always available. Yeah, sometimes you got to get in the car and drive to Chicago and your air conditioning stops, but you keep going. Life is a journey and a continuous learning opportunity. This story showed me this over and over. Responsibility is the foundation of personal freedom. Each one of those times I took a bold step. When my friend said, I have to go to the UK, I can't go to Costa Rica, I could have just said, oh, well, then I'm not going either.
Right.
But turns out my daughter was free. She came. And then taking action always leads to results. I love your tweak of that, because it really brings in the magic of being open to something greater. The something greater. Yeah.
That something greater is working within us, and we have to allow it. We have to learn to connect with it. We have to learn to trust in it. And as we're kind of coming to the end of our time together, I just want to read one line from your bio, which I didn't read this time, but it says Pam has performed her original music at keynote talks given by Stephen Lewis, Margaret Trudeau, Deepak Chopra, Byron Katie, Bruce Lipton, Don Miguel Ruiz, and Barbara Marx Hubbard. And really it was that story of the trio of Synchro-Destinies with Deepak that led to all of that. None of those, like you becoming an opening act for, a musical complement to all of those great inspirational spiritual teachers, and so that it just is funny, it's just, this is how the universe works. We take a chance, we be bold, we live with gumption, we know when to be aggressive, we know when to, just let the universe work its magic, and then we go with it, and and then things happen that we can't orchestrate like on our own. We cannot write the script for, first I'm going to go do this, then I'm going to go do this, then I'm going to go do this, and this is going to happen. All we can do is say, I'm going to do this one thing because I'm being called to it, and I have some reason that I have to go do it. And you did that, and then that led to the second meeting, and then the third meeting, and then of course, where you your career, you had a whole new sets of opportunities. So congratulations.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. So what's the last word on this? Because we will wrap up. I'll honor your time and our audience's time. What do you want to say about it? Let me just throw, and I'll put Deepak's book back up on the screen, because really it was his inspiration. This is the cover of his book, Synchro-Destiny, and the subtitle here says, Harnessing the Infinite Power of Coincidence to Create Miracles. Harnessing the infinite power of coincidence to create miracles. I just love it.
Yeah. Because I'm a poet, I hear alliterations all the time. And I just heard aggressive, then I heard the word alchemy, and then I heard the word ally. So I, just like you, tweaked one of your beliefs from my heart. I feel like I want to tweak the word when you said sometimes you need to be aggressive. And that's from your point of view in your world. Maybe that's how you see it. Maybe it's just because I'm Canadian. I've really, in my own world, been seeing where bold action actually has nothing to do with aggression or being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it is the alchemical tool when we act boldly on our intuition, on these nudges, where we call forth the allies that we are meant to co-create our world with, make our difference in the world with. And when I say call forth our allies, they may be people, they may be places, they may be organizations, they may be ways of being, new strengths that we find in ourselves, new ways of holding our thought forms so clearly and confidently and courageously that we are literally transformed. So I feel like Synchro-Destiny is a calling forth of our allies, that we may more confidently, more compassionately, more courageously live our truth, share our gifts, speak our voices confidently, boldly, and, set up these yeses that open the way for us to experience this magic that is rooted in an amazing reality.
And you can contact Pam. Her website is listed below, Pamela Jane Gerrand. And she is a sound alchemist. She is a singer. She is a songwriter. She's a speaker, and she's a friend. And I want to thank you so much, Pam, for joining us this morning. This was a fun conversation. I love these ideas when we can kind of go deep into someone, like in someone's work who profoundly influenced both of us. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Steve. It was a joy to speak with you again.
All righty. And maybe we'll figure out something else to talk about somewhere else down the road. Who knows?
Sure.
All righty. Well, thank you, Pam. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, there was Pam. Thank you so much, Pam, for joining us. We really appreciate that. I gave, when I left Montana, just almost coming up on 2 years ago, I had, I don't know how many books. I got rid of probably 1,000 books. And Synchro-Destiny was one of the books that I got rid of. I kept one little small box of books, and so I had to get rid of them. But it's not very often that I miss a book. This is one of those books that I'm like, I wish I had that book to go back and reference. So anyway, but that's the way. It wasn't meant to be for me to carry it around with me for the rest of life. I'm carrying around the message with me for the rest of my life. All righty. So that's it. Let's get out of here. Tomorrow, Shani Alvarez will join us, the author of We Are One. And we're going to talk about her cover of her book, because we mentioned it at the very, very end of the show when she was with us a couple weeks ago. And we decided that was worthy of a topic. So she'll be joining us again tomorrow. And then Gwen Peterson, who is the founder of Spiritual Communities Network, comes back with us, and she's going to talk about the actual work that she does to help her clients in their alignment and in their alchemy with the world. So, all righty, well, have a great rest of your day. I appreciate people joining us today. Thank you, Bettina and Luke, for being part of the show and commenting. We appreciate you. We will see everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow.